welcome back to Play That Rock and Roll, where we take a look back at the albums and artists of the classic rock era. In my last couple of episodes, I covered the debut albums of two guitarists who were attempting to launch solo careers in the aftermath of their band breaking up. And I'm going to do that exact same thing today. But we're not going to talk about Styx. The Eagles were one of the most successful rock groups of the 1970s. Actually, they're one of the most successful groups of all time. They initially broke up, however, in 1980 after years of excessive drug use, extreme pressure from their label, and clashing egos.
Listen, Edmund, I am ready to go. I can't wait to get my hands on him.
When we get off the stage, I'm gonna kick your ass.
Fucking kill you. I can't wait.
Whoa, when that kind of stuff is on stage and you're in front of people, you got problems.
After a backstage fight between frontman Glenn Fry and guitarist Don Felder, Fry reached his breaking point and decided to leave the group. The Eagles officially disbanded shortly after. All 5 members would attempt solo careers with varying levels of success. Drummer Don Henley enjoyed the most success both critically and commercially. Fry scored with some mid-80s soundtrack work, while guitarist Joe Walsh started off alright, but soon fell deep into alcoholism and drug addiction. And Timothy B. Schmidt was... not particularly well received. But I'm not talking about any of those guys today. Instead, I'm going to look at the debut solo record of Don Felder, as I feel his work is the most overlooked. Now, Don's solo career did not actually begin with his first solo record, but instead, a movie. Hell yes. Don Felder contributed perhaps the best song off the soundtrack to the 1981 animated cult classic movie, Heavy Metal. Now, honestly, I think Heavy Metal is actually pretty lame, except for the scene with Don's song, which is awesome. This song is truly a lost gem of classic rock. You never hear it on the radio, and that's just terrible. Heavy Metal stacks up against just about anything from the rest of the Eagles in their solo careers, but it does not get the credit. Seriously, do yourself a favor and check this song out. Now, Felder actually had 2 songs on the Heavy Metal soundtrack, and he contributed a different song to the Fast Times at Ridgemont High soundtrack just a year later. Then he did a little TV work.
2 kids will be chosen from Earth to go to school at Galaxy High.
Yeah. That's actually Don singing there. Looks like a kid version of Heavy Metal. And a couple of years later, he joined the cast of a music-based show called FTV.
Don Felder! And here's FTV VJ Rock and Roll's own Don Felder!
Hi, I'm Don Felder, and welcome to FTV. Now, you're going to have a good time with us today, and we're not going to take no for an answer.
I think this was also geared for kids, but my god, this is one of the worst shows I have ever seen. I cannot believe this is what passed for entertainment in the early 80s. Alright, let's get back on topic. Since Felder enjoyed some mild success by dipping his toes into the pool with those soundtrack releases, he decided it was time to release his debut solo record in 1983. He called the record Airborne because, in his words, this eagle wasn't grounded. Yeesh. Pretty cool cover design, though. Okay, enough stalling. Let's get high with Airborne by Don Felder. Hit it. Okay, this is some good build-up. Reminds me of the long version of I Ran by A Flock of Seagulls. Strong start. This song, like the aforementioned Heavy Metal, was originally written by Felder and Joe Walsh back in their days with the Eagles. I can see why they passed on this one, but to tell you the truth, I kinda like it. I mean, it's way overproduced and super cheesy, but the guitar parts are pretty cool, and I could definitely see this being part of an all-night MTV marathon. In fact, comedian Cheech Marin is in the video. He does not make it better. This video sucks. Okay, what's the next song? Oh wow, I don't like this at all. His vocals are way too high on this, and that synth is annoying. This kinda sounds like it could be the theme to some garbage 80s sitcom. I'm not watching that. This one isn't bad, it's just kind of boring. Pretty much the definition of filler, as is the next one. Don has said that this is his favorite song from the album, which baffles me. He even compared it to the Stephen Stills song, Love the One You're With. I don't see it. Okay, let's flip this over. Side B. Go! This, actually, is the song he gave to the Fast Times at Ridgemont High soundtrack. And he even got to co-write it with Kenny Loggins. I do not like it. Remember that shitty song Loggins gave Tommy Shaw for Girls with Guns? This reminds me of that. Overproduced with weak lyrics. A memo to classic rock. Stop co-writing with Kenny Loggins. Long before Axl Rose howled about it, Felder used jungle as a metaphor for the city. This is still filler, but a step in the right direction. I love that he's using the talk box here, but the rest of the song is rough. Way too many bells and whistles from the synth. Okay, let's finish this. Hey, there's more talkbox here. And this song doesn't suck. In fact, I'd say it's the best one besides the single. I genuinely like this song. Felder said he wrote this about his relationship with his wife. Nice sentiment. And check out this outro. I really like this. Maybe this is my favorite song here. Nice way to finish on a high note. This album is essentially a shit sandwich with really good bread. Good start, strong finish, but everything in between is basically worthless. But I do recommend those two songs, Bad Girls and Still Alive. Now, Airborne actually managed to hit number 34 on the rock charts, despite the label wanting nothing to do with it. Asylum was trying to move in a new direction, so it made very little effort to promote this record. As did Don Felder. In his book, he said his attitude at the time was, if it doesn't sell, it doesn't really matter. He was just happy to be done with it. He also declined to tour behind the record, as he still felt burnt out by his days in the Eagles. Ultimately, this album did not sell very well, and it is largely forgotten by classic rock fans today, primarily for two reasons. One, the record is not very good. The production is just too chintzy, and there's way too much of it. Plus, if you hadn't noticed, Felder buries his vocals so deep in the mix you can barely hear him at times. I hate to say it, but the reason he did that is he just flat out cannot sing very well. The other reason this album flopped is probably because name recognition of Don Felder has always been pretty low. The Eagles were a famously faceless band, and heavy metal was a cult film at best, so there was very little buzz around Felder's debut solo record. After the release of Airborne, Felder did some more studio work, joined that awful TV show, and eventually scrapped plans for a second record to pursue other business ventures. In 1994, hell froze over when the Eagles finally reunited, and Felder toured with them until the end of the decade. But after several disputes over money, Felder was unceremoniously fired from the band in 2001. He battled his former band in court over the next several years, and eventually published a tell-all memoir in 2008. Right around then, he also started touring with his own band. I saw an early outing of theirs in Windsor in 2009. In 2012, he finally released his long-overdue second album. It's not a bad record, fairly typical for a 2010s release from a classic rock act. More recently, Felder's toured with bands like REO Speedwagon, Styx, and Foreigner, even re-recording Hotel California with members from the latter two.
On the dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair.
Not great. But I bet this drove Henley right up a wall when he heard it. Felder's a decent live act, hasn't lost a step musically, and is quite nice if you get a chance to meet him. But if you're hoping to hear any Airborne tracks in concert, you're out of luck. I don't think he's very fond of this record. So he much prefers to play tracks from Road to Forever and from his days in the Eagles. But he will play heavy metal, which is worth the price of admission alone. Speaking of heavy metal, South Park released an episode that pays tribute to the film in 2008, and it is phenomenal. Easily my favorite episode. Definitely check that one out. And be sure to check out our next episode, which will take a look back at a release from one of Felder's old bandmates. We'll see you then.
And then you fight the Boo Goblin in the Gazonga's cave, and then the girl may thank you for it. But she isn't real.
And you never really get a good look at her naked boobs anyway.
How crazy did the sex get? Did you and Joe Walsh? Did you and Joe Walsh
had sex?
No. Did you and Joe Walsh ever bang a chick together? Did you ever double team someone?
No.
Never did.
Not that I can remember.
Well, you know what?